Now I don't hear you anymore.
Yeah, you don't hear me anymore because we weren't live. We are live now, but we weren't
Well,
live that whole time. Just so you know,
okay.
we weren't even live on Facebook because the stream had to be active. So, uh,
Well, what do you want to do? I mean, we could do like a just a up until 7 o'clock still. I do have to go after that, but or oh, I see us on here.
it's funny. I don't even know how it's still going. It, it's streaming now on YouTube.
Yeah, I see. Rose is on here too.
You,
Hi, Rose.
well, welcome, friends.
We
we
were
got
having one of the greatest conversations ever.
just one of the greatest conversations that you would ever want to participate in, and we weren't able to have it go live, but it's going live now.
Here,
So
here.
we're gonna have an abbreviated show this evening, where we
Yeah.
still have to end at 7. But welcome to Yoga and Me. This is the opportunity for us to have a little dialogue about yoga and its benefits on us and the community. One of the things we do to start off, damn sure we need to start off in this instance, is to sit back and take some breaths. So we're going to sit back and just take these breaths to kick this show off on health. And so let's sit on back. You can roll those shoulders back and down. You can just start to breathe through the nose. Let's just take that deep inhale in, hold it at the top. Exhale out. Again, inhale in. Exhale out. One more time. Inhale in. And exhale out. We usually start off with a little quote, and I'll let Jana hit us with that quote.
All right. So the quote for today is related to our topic of yoga and health. And the quote is by Mahatma Gandhi. He says, "It is health that is the real wealth, and not pieces of gold and silver." So, Jay, you can start us off with this quote. Any thoughts on this quote in particular and how it relates to our theme?
Well, definitely that health is wealth. We've sort of had this discussion before, so but definitely that health is wealth, in that a lot of times we think wealth are in the things that we possess, the things that we have, and we don't stop to understand that wealth is in our happiness. Wealth is in our ability to enjoy the moment, right? Even in the sense of our family. Something that we could find ourselves is out doing is out trying to work our job and work 12 hours a day, and you know 80 hours a week, and in the sense to get that wealth, and we've neglected our family. You see that within people who have these big jobs. There's these CEOs, or they're even these celebrities, and as their kids grow up, they tell them, I'm upset with you as a parent because you weren't there for me. And they're like, well, I was working all that time for you, right? Our health, our life, our happiness is only in the present moment. It's not tomorrow. It's not yesterday. It's right now. And something that yoga really presents to us, it definitely presents to me, is that opportunity to be now. And it's only in that now that we can find that happiness, and thereby it's only in that now that we can actually find that true wealth. And in that now, in that wealth, in that happiness, that's where we can have healing and we can have better health. This is what I think that quote definitely means for me.
Yeah, thank you. Adding on to that, just as far as what is wealth and being able to see wealth outside of strictly financial terms and acknowledging wealth as the ability to enjoy life, to explore life, to have access to that which you desire from your heart out of this life. And that to me is a part of wealth that is beyond, you know, the financial terms, right? Or it's broader than that. It includes, like you're saying, this ability to be present and to acknowledge myself. It includes being able to notice and come to know who I am. Knowing myself is a huge facet of wealth, because when you know who you are, you know that nobody else can give you wealth or take wealth away from you. It's something that's inborn and that you cultivate. Same as health. And so we can see health and wealth as parallel feelings. And that's, I think, one of the misconceptions is health for sure is really gauged by your feelings. Nobody else can tell me how I feel in my body. And I can't tell anyone else how they feel. And if I feel enlivened, if I feel joyous, if I feel love flowing through me, and if I feel capable of whatever I put my mind to, that's healthy. That's a healthy state of being. And that is the basis of any other type of wealth. But that in and of itself is a wealthy mindset. That is a wealthy experience, to be connected, to be enlivened, and to be joyous. That is wealth. And again, the quote really points to this idea that if we're saying health is wealth and not pieces of silver and gold, it's a reminder that it's never going to be a thing, a tangible thing, or anything that you can accumulate in terms of possession. It's always going to be an inner feeling and an inner knowing. And that's also then that link to yoga, which is self connection, self knowing, and calm of mind. I think wealth, too, pointing to the mind, is you have an inner peace that's unending, right? Because you know that it can't be taken away. It's not anyone else's to give or to take. It's my own. So that's my responsibility, and that's health and wealth working, synonymously together.
Oh, oh, responsibility. That part right
Right.
there. That's what yoga brings. That's why I teach it. Why I want other people to know about the philosophy, because it's that piece that really gets into our health, right? That responsibility. We don't understand that our health is, in a sense, of indication. Somebody trying to call me. Our health is an indication of what we're doing, right? It's our consequences of how we're being towards ourselves. And if we're not paying attention to ourselves, if we're abusing ourselves, right, in a sense to say, for me, as I would be emotional and down in the dumps, then I would eat milk and cookies to just, make myself feel better. And in that, it was this sort of appeasing that I would do to my mind. But what that was actually doing was abusing my body. It's something you hear with addicts, that they are using a substance to kind of numb them. They're going to take them out of what's happening up here. And it's the same thing with eating, in that sense of where if I'm sad, now I'm eating to kind of compensate for that sadness. I'm using that eating to go back to a happier time and not be present with dealing with what's happening. And so as I'm not being present now, I'm hurting my body. I'm hurting myself because I'm just trying to numb what's happening. And now that I'm a little bit more present, I wouldn't say that I'm some present individual that's always here, that's always happy, that's always healthy. But now I can be a little bit more present to what's happening within my body. And so as I feel sluggish, as I start to feel these different things going on, I can take that responsibility and say, oh man, Jay, that there's something going on here physically that actually has to do with something mentally, something maybe emotionally. And I can look back to, if I was going through relationship issues, especially, and I gained all this weight, right? That was me now, in a sense, abusing myself or using food to compensate for that sadness, to no longer be present. And so my practice tells me, Jay, pay attention, come back. You need to accept whatever that relationship is and now move forward within your life. And in that, now I can begin to say, hey, this is what's going on, and I can take it or leave it and not feel
Yeah.
like the worst thing in the world is happening and cause my mental health as well as my physical health to take a dive.
Hmm. Yeah. Just when you brought up those different layers, the mental, the physical, emotional, it reminds me of the koshas, which in yoga philosophy we speak of as the 5 layers of our body, and or the yogic or human body. And it's in that philosophy, there's 5 layers, but they're all connected. So we have our physical, the mental, our emotional, intuitive, and the deepest layer is our blissful body. So it's like bliss lives in us. Bliss is. We are bliss, right? We are health. Our natural state is of equanimity and balance and ease, right? That's our natural state. And so if we can, play with that idea, maybe if it's not something we believe, but if we let ourselves play with the idea that the core of me is blissful, then it's like, and if I can acknowledge too that these 5 levels are intertwined, interconnected, really one, right? Then maybe I can let myself to experience that on my physical level and on my mental and on my emotional level, if I can tune to that blissful core part of me. And the the health, if you will, of that also is that acknowledgement of our wholeness and our natural well-being. Like well-being is natural. Well-being is not something that can be given to you in a remedy or a pill or whatever. It's the natural with what that which is within. And the other thing with that, when we think about wealth as well, is I think about the breath, and I think about how when I think of wealth in financial terms and money, it's not about the number of today. It's about being in a flow, in a cycle. And when you look at nature, everything is giving and receiving. There's always this flow. There's no stagnation. And so to me, I can easily attune to this flow that is unending and eternal when I let my consciousness sync up with my breath. Because my breath is the closest thing to me that is always flowing. There's no stagnation in breath. There's always an in and an out, whether I'm asleep or I'm awake, whether I'm angry, whether I'm happy. My breath is still flowing. Now, if I want to attune my awareness to that is one thing, and I can let myself experience the flow or not, which is a blocking off of health, right? Um, even in the sutras, it talks about how there are things that are either painful or painless, but there's nothing that's going to bring you happiness because happiness is. There are just things that will either enhance it or impede it. So same with health. It just is. So there are things that are going to either enhance it or impede it. And so we have to, and just in the simple becoming aware of ourselves and our tendencies mentally, emotionally, physically, how we relate to even the word bliss or the word unending joy. What is everlasting peace? These are all things in scriptures as well. So we can find these parallels in different texts. But more importantly, the purpose of these conversations is to bring them into our life today. What does it mean if I wake up in the morning and decide, today I'm going to explore what everlasting peace feels like? And maybe I only go, 5 minutes or whatever. But if I can set that intention to maybe sync up with this part of me, not looking for it in anything else, not in pieces of silver and gold, like the quote says, or in pieces of green paper or pieces of whatever else. But if I can let myself explore the idea that peace, health, wealth is a part of my DNA, my body, my beingness, then it's like, how can I explore that part of me today and maybe tomorrow and maybe the next day? So that continuing flow is real.
So real. It's so real. You know, it it, it in a sense it it takes me to thinking of what we say of being on the mat and being off the mat. And
Right.
it's like being on the mat, like you said, that breath, that's your wealth. That's where you're going to get all of that goodness in a sense. Because if you can have a practice to where you're actually into your breath, then you're having a very wealthy practice. Because if you're in that breath, now you're being present with the body. If you're present with the body, now you're actually stretching those limbs. You're getting into those things that need to be activated or stretched or moved or just released, right? And it's that same thing. If I'm out in life and I'm in my breath, I'm present. Now I'm in that flow, I'm in that wealth. And people see that. It's like what Rita put in the little chat here. And for people who are catching us on Facebook, we just went live. And so I want to welcome Facebook Live people. What Rita said was as long as she's alive and she's got her kids, then she's healthy or she's wealthy,
Mm-hmm.
it's that being present in the sense of your purpose, like what's your reason of being. It's the same thing if I'm at work and I'm present and I know what my reason of being there is. Now I can actually enjoy being at work. But if I'm at work and I'm like, oh my God, I could be doing this, I could be doing that, I could be whatever, I'm no longer present. I can't enjoy my work. Now my mental health is suffering because I'm sitting there stressing. And we all have dealt with
Yeah.
those people at work who have been like, always complaining about everything, complaining about this person,
Mm-hmm.
complaining about that person, complaining about the fact that they got a job. It's like,
Right.
stop complaining and enjoy the fact that you're here, that you're doing something. You're sitting here suffering in your complaints when everything's actually okay. You've got a job. You're gonna have some money, at the end of the week. You're gonna be able to pay your bills. Chill the hell out, right? That's I think what the yogic philosophy brings. It damn sure brings to me is to stop complaining about what you can't control. I can't control tomorrow. I can't control other people. I can't control yesterday. It's no longer in existence. The only thing I can control is right now. And if I'm in control of right now, then I'm able to have some type of sway or input in my health, in my being, in my sense of wealth, my sense of actual happiness. It's life is only in this present moment. And I think people um, really have a hard time grasping the infinity of it, how um,
Yeah.
insignificant your fears truly are, right? If you think that you look out into infinity, that's what they do with those telescopes, with a microscope. You look into infinity because there's no end, up or
Right.
down, and that's
Right.
just in that moment, right? Then you've got another infinite moment and another infinite moment, and so the how truly infinite things are, people can't grasp, and I think it's because of that we find ourselves um, unhealthy, right? Suffering. Even
Yeah.
in me not paying attention, I moved myself some years back and really hurt my back. I wasn't paying attention to that move. I just needed to get it done. I just wanted to power through. It's the same thing we see on the mat. People who are just trying to power through and not be present, and I hurt my back. Just like
Hmm.
it thought I was going to need surgery before getting into the practice, right? But it's because I wasn't present, because I was just trying to force my way through or um, think I knew better, right? Not
Hmm.
listen to what's actually happening. And I think that's what we do is that we don't listen to ourselves, our body, our friends, our family in the present moment. We think we know based on yesterday, based on tomorrow, and that causes that suffering. That causes that agony in the body, if you will. Right? That's what the practice brings is to say, shut up and listen. Pay attention, Jay.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I wanted to, say thank you to Rose for this comment too about what wealthy is for her mom. Yeah, just being alive and healthy. And I think one of the questions that we have prepared was about yoga injuries, for example, when we talk about practicing on the mat and asana and our movement practice. And, one, you just pointed to that though with your own experience with an injury. And so doing the poses themselves is not yoga, I'm going to say. That's my own personal. Um, but it's your approach to the poses. It's your approach to the poses, and it's again when we if we can think about wealth as something broader than financial terms, then let's also think about yoga as something broader than moving my body terms. When we think about it singularly, right? So it's like we can include those things, but we have to include them as intertwined with other things. So coming to my mat and doing the postures, practicing asana with the mental space of presence, with that non judgmental self relationship, self communication. Um, that is an approach that if we really allowed ourselves to take it and we listen to our bodies and listen to ourselves, that's meant to prevent yoga injuries, right? A lot of yoga injuries, one, can come because, like you said, people are either powering through, they're not listening to their breath, they've lost their breath a few poses ago, and now they're trying to. And so that's one thing. But the other thing too, with yoga injuries, like you're if you go to yoga classes and things of that nature, it's like that's 1 hour of time or however long it is. But it's
Hopefully, it's
how
an
are
hour and
you
a
treating
half.
your body? But how are you treating your body outside of that time, the other 23 hours of the day? Um, what you do on your mat might exacerbate, or hopefully, what you do on your mat will soothe the body. Um, but thinking about our yoga practice, if we're talking about our body, we take our bodies everywhere we go. So it's not just when we show up to the mat. But how we're treating ourselves is the real the juice. And so it's like whether we're on a mat or not, how are we treating ourselves and what's our approach to ourselves in a given moment that's gonna really be the the gauge or the standard in terms of how yoga can be beneficial to us. Um, if you, I mean, like getting on your mat, period. Even if you are in a space of like I'm not feeling myself today, or whatever it is that might be a little more vulgar or whatever, then it's just like sometimes just sitting there and having that soft intention to meet yourself in this moment will take you to a different space to where you can have a real practice and a real engagement with yourself that's going to feel good. Um, and that's the also just remembering that it's meant to feel good. It's meant to be soothing. It's meant to bring you to remind you of who you really are. Or if you don't need reminding, just to continue to live in all that you really are. That's the wealth and that's the health, and that's how they can be lived in simultaneously is being aware of your true nature and that which is cultivated from within, and giving it more value than any other thing that you can acquire, right? Because it's all fleeting. And it's fun and it's good, but if it's making you have to sacrifice your own joy and bliss, which is again part of who you are, if you're denying yourself in the pursuing of something external, then it's not going to be as great as you thought it was when you get it, or it's not going to be lasting. Like it's just not. You can't have one teacher I have says you can't have a happy ending to an unhappy journey. If you're mad all the way along the way, you're gonna get it because that's how life works, right? But you're not gonna be happy when you do, or it's gonna be quickly no longer part of your experience. Um, so it's like, how can we set ourselves up to recognize that it's not about some end goal. There's no end, eternal. That's wealth. Remembering, knowing that we are eternal, everlasting. There's no ending. There's no death. There's no final, no moreness. It's like there's transition and evolution and changes. But energy is here and it's only going to transmute and transform to other things. But there is no ending of it. And so if we can see that too, that is wealth again as part of the fabric of who we are and the world that we live in. So tuning into wealth and things that are broader than the financial means to start at least, then it's like, oh, you can see how it all intertwines and you can experience wealth in all manner of form that's desirable for you.
Yeah, I know there's people probably listening going, "What? There's no end."
I mean, hey,
But that's true. One, in the practice, I think it's important that you have a good instructor to let you know that these asanas are not yoga. This is not. You're not coming here so that you can put a toe in your ear and now that's going to make you healthier or better, right? A good teacher is one, grounding you in your breath and making you present, and now using the asanas in a sense to help out because it's hard for people to sit still. It's hard for
yeah,
people to be present and do nothing. And so that's why the asanas exist and whatnot and the different things. One is so that you can actually be working on something, which is the body, and helping that healing going on. But um, as we get into that piece, though, I want to touch on of end. I think that is the piece that truly causes an unhealthy mind and an unhealthy body because we are chasing something, right? You see people chasing happiness, and in chasing happiness, they are, again, going back to something I talked about before, abusing their body. In chasing happiness, they are abusing their mind. They're not present. They're not being in the flow of life, in the love of life. And so why we champion this practice, why we discuss mindfulness is because if you're going to want to get into actual wealth, you have to be present in understanding your purpose and your reasoning of being. It can't be that you want to do something before you get to your end, right? Before my life's
Mm-hmm.
over, I want to have an impact. And so you're
Right.
doing all these things that actually has no impact. You're gathering stuff and thinking because you're getting attention for the stuff that you have, somehow you're having impact when you're just doing the same thing everybody else is doing. The greatest impact that we can have is on the fact that there is no end. And in knowing that there's no end, my story may come to an end if I don't share it, if I don't give
Mhm.
it out to other
Mhm.
people, if I don't share my love. And so, me sharing my love with my family and my friends, then there is no end to the ego that is Jay, right? To what you may think I am because of these different things I've done and so on and so forth. That is not me. But even that can live on in the mouths and minds of those that you touch. And the
Mhm.
more people you touch, the more people you love, the more present and vulnerable you are with folks, the more wealthy you can truly be, the more healthy you can truly be. It's because of that that now you're even open to more possibilities of wealth and health. Right, I might not have known something that was happening, and we've all bumped into those people who's like, something don't look right. You okay? Like what? Something don't look right, and then you check in and you find out like, damn, Skippy, they saw that you weren't feeling that. You weren't looking too good. Something is wrong. Right? It's truly again being in the flow, being in love, being in life that we could
Mhm.
find true wealth and true health. And our practice just tells us come out of your mind, come out of your future and your past, and step into right now. Right? If you can step into right now, you can go around the hate that we see that's in the world. You can go around the disease that you see that's in the world. And you can step into, again, just the happy flow. And this is what we are even seeing, I think, with the coronavirus. You see a lot of people who are dying from pre existing illnesses or pre existing sadness because they've already been suffering in this world. Now, this COVID has come
Mhm.
along and just pushed them over the top. If you can understand that being in the flow of life, being in the flow of love is what will actually protect you. This is the message of Christ. This was the good news that if you can be in this flow, be in this Christ consciousness, this Buddha consciousness, then you could be protected by God, protected in love, if you will. I'm getting a little theological, but this is the spirituality of this practice, right?
Yeah.
It's lovely.
Yeah. And I've got to, before we close, speak to clarity of mind because that's what you're talking about right here. Clarity of mind is wealth inside of yourself. Like, because also, I mean, on a real practical way, we've got to see that if especially again, if we are tying it to wealth and money, but more than that, talking about your wealth of life experience, then clarity of mind, presence, all of that is cultivated. One way to cultivate it is through yoga practice. It's not the only way, but one way we cultivate it in yoga when we are on our mat is that, you know, if I'm thinking about what I'm doing right now in my body, like I'm placing my foot right here, I'm putting my hand here, I'm twisting, I'm breathing, whatever it might be, that nowness that I'm allowing my mind to sync up with is what clarity of mind is, because it's not cluttered by past and future, as you were pointing to. And clarity of mind is where all the great ideas come from. That's where, your inspiration comes from, your intuition, and all of that is what creates anything that we can have in our tangible world that produces dollars. So, I mean, that's a real practical, for real thing, but beyond, and not even just for the outcome of it, but the experience and the feeling of being in that clarity and flow and openness is health in the now. That feeling of being alive and connected to something that's bigger than me, but also that is inside of me, that is clarity. That's alignment. And that is health and wealth, again, as this one harmonious, intertwined experience. Health and wealth is an experience. It's not something that can be attained. It is how you experience moments. So, yes, those are my closing words.
You dropped it right there. You dropped it right there. It's damn sure an experience. Life is an experience. It's us relating to things, and so
Yes.
it's one. It's getting close to that time to wrap up, but I do want to say that what you described for me just now in that is
Mm-hmm.
our shavasana, right? You've
Mm-hmm.
done everything. You've really been in your breath.
Mm-hmm.
You've really moved the body and whatever, and you come down and you sit back on your mat and you just kind of let go, and now you just feel that oneness, that
That's
connection, that
it.
real flow. I felt so healthy and wealthy in just a great shavasana, and had all those great things come to my mind, like, ooh, oh, all these possibilities, these great possibilities, because I let all that other stuff go for that hour and 15 minutes or hour and a half. And now
Right.
I can really drop into my shavasana. So, yeah, you said so much, Jana, as usual. But it's time for us to begin to wrap up. It's a bit of an abbreviated show because we had some technical difficulties, but we start in breath and we end in a breath, and so let's just sit back and take this opportunity to take 3 breaths to kind of close out this health and wealth discussion.
There we go.
Sit back and close the eyes, and we're just going to inhale through the nose, hold it at the top, exhale out. Again, inhale through that nose. Release it when you're at the top. One more. Inhale through the nose. Exhale, release it when you're at the top. There's nothing more grounding, no better way to reset yourself than taking a breath. Join us next week, same time, Tuesday at 6 p.m., where our topic will be addiction. We thank you
There we
for
go.
tuning in and listening. Thank you for watching the show when it's not live. Uh, if you don't know, we are representatives of the Tree South LA. You can find us at thetreesouthlA.org. You can take any yoga class that you want. You can even find links to donate to the Tree to help us, to support us with this show and support us with our new facility. Thanks again.
That's it. Thank you all. See you next time.
Let's see if we can transition us out. Mute us.